Hello and welcome to another Truth Proof live stream. As you can tell by the banner, we've got a really great guest on tonight, and I know from talking to him, some really exciting stories. So, welcome everybody to tonight's live stream from the UK, around the world, and the US of A. I've got to welcome everybody who's into the chat, whose names I can see. Now, I'm sorry if I do miss anybody out. Let's see if I can just skim through some of these. Let's say Stargazer Eternals in the chat tonight. Lisa Rod, Rebecca King, Karen Taylor, Steph J, Patricia Adams Wright, Joan Thomas, Alison Buttle, Kim King is in the chat tonight. A great bunch in tonight. You're always in. Skyflower is doing our moderating tonight, and she does a really good job. So I want to everybody on the best behaviour will come into the chat tonight, and I know you've got you'll have some really interesting questions for our guest later on. So put those questions in caps, please, and then obviously we can differentiate between those and the rest of the comments. I've got Janice Parry in the chat. I have MKMD Exploration and Paranormal. Welcome to the show, guys. Richard and Jessica Pym's in the chat tonight. Welcome, Jessica. And by the way, as you probably already know, going by the title card, Jessica and Nick Pym has done the soundtrack for the introduction to this live stream. And got to really thank you for that, Jessica. Without further ado, let's go to Paul, who will introduce today's guest. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Les. And another week's come round. Has everybody got the heating on? Because it's a cold one tonight. I think we're all going to be keeping wrapped up, aren't we? But yeah, tonight I'm speaking with Eric Mintel, and I'm really looking forward to it. Self-taught jazz musician and investigator of all things unexplained. And Eric, welcome to Truth Proof.
Hey, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. I was looking forward to this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Before we jump into the unexplained, let's kind of touch on music for a little bit and just give us a background on your career and your achievements.
Well, my parents could always find me at the piano. Being an only child, we didn't have much in the house, but we did manage to have a piano, and it was mostly in tunes most of the time. And so they could always find me at the piano, and I was always making up my own melodies. And then when I was around 14, thankfully my mom and dad had a lot of great music in the house. I was listening to like Elvis. I was listening to Ray Charles, a lot of rhythm and blues stuff. And then one day I came across this old 45 record when they had records. And it was, one side was Dave Brubeck, on one side, it was Dave Brubeck Quartet. On one side was Blue Rondo a la Turk. The other side was Take Five. And man, I put that music on, and it was like, I knew that's what I wanted to play, even though at the time I didn't know it was jazz, but it was amazing. So I learned everything I could on Brubeck, and then became good friends with Dave later on in life. He wrote liner notes for my CDs, and just an amazing mentor to have. And he was one of my heroes, and got a chance to actually meet him. And actually, he was in the audience watching us play as we opened up for him one night. So it was amazing.
I bet it really was. And like you said, self-taught, and to attain some levels that you've got to. I mean, like I said, we are going to touch on the paranormal people, but
sure.
Just tell people some places that you've played, Eric.
Well, when I first started my quartet, I was playing a lot of the college circuit. We were doing a lot of colleges and universities, jazz clubs, the whole thing. I think one of the very first gigs I had actually was for a women's lingerie show. And it was a good gig. So, but that was one of the first gigs. And then fast forward, I said, I want to really take the group to another level. And so and one night I'm watching TV, and I happened to see a commercial for the White House. And I had said, I'm going to call them and see if maybe I could do something. So I called them, and I said, is there any programs where you send musicians around to perform in any kind of like positive outreach using jazz? And they said, oh, you're going to have to call the social secretary. So I called them, sent in loose press clippings I had at the time and a CD I had at the time. not thinking anything, just sent that stuff in. And about a week later, I get a call on my machine. I was on the road and I checked out my machine and it said, this is the White House. We'd like to invite the Eric Mintel Quartet to the White House for Christmas. And this was 1998. Yeah. And it was for President Clinton. And it was a holiday dinner reception and how they titled it Friends, Family, and Foes of the President. So it was pretty interesting. We got a chance to meet him at the end of the night. And I got it. And I said to the president, I said, Mr. President, you and I have a mutual friend in Dave Brubeck. And he said, Dave Brubeck was the very first, Dave Brubeck said, I was the very first elected official that could sing the bridge to Blue Rondo a la Turk. And he had just given Dave like a National Medal of the Arts Award, I think like a month or two prior. So that, the White House, that was it. So we went and played the White House. And then right after that, we played the Kennedy Center. Now that was 1998. In 1999, we played the Kennedy Center over 10 times at the Kennedy Center and just had some amazing opportunities. And one day my girlfriend says, why don't you try to get in the White House again? And I'm like, well, that was probably just a once in a lifetime thing. I'll probably never get a chance to do that again. She's like, give him a call. So I called. I said, it's Eric Mintel. I just wondering if you had any opportunities. They're like, what's your availability for December? Now, this was 2011. So this was like 13 years later. And so we got a chance to perform for President Obama and the First Lady and another holiday reception. And it was just, it was surreal. It was kind of like, the White House is so historic. That it's an old building. So when you step into that building, you could smell the history. It's just really, really incredible. So we got a chance to, again, the Marine Guard took us down to meet the president. And I said, Mr. President, again, we have a mutual friend in Dave Brubeck, because I knew he had a connection. And he said, Dave Brubeck was the very first jazz concert I went to see with my father when I was a kid. So it was really some neat connections. And, just that's been my whole career. We've been, performing. That's what I wanted to kind of do with jazz, having Dave Brubeck as a hero, as a mentor, seeing what he did with jazz. That's what I wanted to do with jazz, to get it out to the masses, And so that's what we've done ever since. We tour and perform all over this country. I had an opportunity to get to England not too long, well, back in 2002, I think it was, so a little while ago. It didn't happen, but one day I want to come over and perform for you guys over there. And so, yeah, it's incredible, man.
And like we said briefly before you came on, might be self-taught, Eric, but there's no way you're winging it when you've played at them places, And
exactly.
Just before we move on to the paranormal, were you tempted to ask any of these high-flying people about any knowledge of the unexplained, UFOs and things?
Yeah, being a jazz musician, we are in all these beautiful halls, these beautiful, like, incredible places. Like you said, I've always been into the paranormal for years. Way before I even found jazz. My father, and we live in an area here in Pennsylvania, it's called Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and it's very rich in history. Washington and Lafayette were all over this area. I live right down the road from where Washington crossed the Delaware. So a lot of great history, a lot of ties to the Underground Railroad are here as well. So I'd always heard stories of the paranormal, ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, everything. So always loved it. And in the back of my mind, it was always there. And I had always been a filmmaker, and I always loved making films, editing, and things like that. So, and my jazz career, though, was busy. I was busy doing that. Didn't really take hold of that until one night in 2016, I said, I'm going to just, I saw a paranormal show and I said, I could do that, and so I started, it was originally called Bucks County Paranormal Investigation.
Paranormal. Was this prior to your UFO encounter in 2016?
This was right after that, not too long after that. Okay. It was fun. A lot of stuff happened in 2016, which was really incredible. We had this incredible encounter, and I've had several UFO encounters over my lifetime, but this was really significant. This was in February of 2016. My girlfriend and I were going over this bridge over to a house that she had rented at the time in Stockton, New Jersey. It's an area called New Hope, Pennsylvania. and you go over across the bridge, and you're crossing the Delaware to get to Stockton, New Jersey. As we're crossing the bridge, I look up and I see 5 orange orbs just appeared out of nowhere. And it looked like just switched on. And it looked like they were swirling, like it was like swirling lava. It was very, very strange. So I'm like, what the, and my rational brain is saying, okay, well, there's a restaurant next door. Maybe they're Chinese lanterns that they just sent off. You know, maybe there's a wedding or something going on. Then that quickly went away because it was a Wednesday and it was cold and there's nobody getting married on a Wednesday. So that went away. So then I'm trying to fumble for my phone to take a picture, and I was able to get one picture of it. And, but one by one, they just petered out. They just like disappeared and faded away. So it was really, I mean, that was one of the most significant encounters. And then later on, I looked online, and a lot of people had the same encounter that night.
Yeah, it's so interesting that, I mean, I didn't know what your encounter were. I'd just done a little bit of background on you, and I knew you'd had a sighting in 2016. So I didn't know it were orange spheres, but you said one thing that kind of rings true with what we're looking at. You said they looked like lava, and that's exactly what Lee Haywood said when he was with me the night that he saw these things. Just looked like molten lava.
It's crazy. Yeah, I've seen a lot of paranormal programs, and we keep saying that's exactly what we saw. And then maybe a couple of weeks after that, I was on a gig, and she was at the house, and she had seen in the front yard, like in there. So at the time, she was living at this great little place. It was a little place, little stone farmhouse, and it was on 65 acres. So there was nothing around. It was just a lot of farmland and stuff like that. And the front area of her yard was just huge. And then the road was about a long ways down. Yeah. But in the front, she saw what looked like, remember that Mitch Miller bouncing ball, follow the bouncing ball thing back in the day? She saw this orange, like an orb bouncing in the yard, like just doing one of these things. And that was really weird. I said, did you look up, and was there anything up there? And then she said it just blinked out.
And so once again, well, that orange then, Eric, once again?
I think she said it was white. It was white this time. But yeah, and she thought it was maybe the farmer next door with the farmer's light looking around, but there was nobody over there. Nothing was coming over from there. So that was really something that we're actually still scratching our heads about. We're trying to figure out what that was.
Well, when you were looking at these spheres of orange light, how did it leave you feeling? Did it in awe? Did you think there was some intelligence behind them, or it was just a spectacular sight that you'll not forget?
I just didn't. I was like, wow, I couldn't believe that we actually saw something like that. I mean, it was just at the right place at the right time. Was it UFOs? For all intents and purposes, it was an unidentified aerial phenomena, as they're calling them now. Yeah. But it was a UFO. I mean, just recently, as far as like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago now, we're getting reports here of a very bright, luminous object. It looks like a pill shape, with multiple lights on it, hovering very low and silent. So we're getting, and people are seeing this so much that they're drawing what they're seeing, and they're sending that into us, and pictures and video. So and I always say this, Paul, I always say that people are seeing something.
Yeah. So the sighting, Eric, that you're talking about now, that's ongoing. You're investigating that one now.
Yeah.
Do they give an indication at size of this object? These multiple witnesses.
Way bigger than a drone. It's because that was one thing that we thought, could it have been a drone? But this is the size of like a small airplane. So it's pretty big in size. So. But the thing that everybody says, it's silent, not making one sound, and just multiple lights on this thing. So we're going to do a night investigation on this pretty soon. And we're going to go down to the area that everybody's been seeing it and see if we could try to capture something on video. So as soon as we do, I'll let you know.
Yeah,
because
in fact, 2 of my questions, you answered them before I'd got a chance to say them, because that's what I was going to say. The orange orbs, I'm presuming they were silent, and I had thought about the drone, when you're describing this object, but the silence and unwavering. What weather conditions when you looked at these orange orbs? Because you're always going to get. Obviously, there could have been an absolutely rational explanation for them. There could have been Chinese lanterns, but if we can rule out a lot of the, if it were a windy night or anything, you know, and these things are stationary.
This was the night that we had our encounter. It was clear as a bell. It was so clear. You could see the stars. Everything was so clear. The thing is that why this made it so interesting was because it was only they were only a couple of 100 feet from the top of the bridge. Right. So they weren't way up there. They were really close. So that was what really struck me, because I was able to just see them right away like that. And it startled us too, because we were like, wow, what the heck is that? And it just came out of nowhere. And it was just the strangest thing. And could they be intelligently controlled? I don't know. I mean, one by one, they just kind of petered out. And I don't think, you know, military would be dropping flares or anything over a populated area like that.
It's not just that, Eric. If they were flares, this is another point that's worth making. Were they illuminating the area around them? Because that's what a flare's designed to do.
And no, that's the whole thing. It wasn't. It was self-contained.
Yeah, at the same time, it looked intense.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know it might be a repeat area, that, Eric, and somewhere that you and your team might, I don't know time-wise what time you've got, but somewhere that might be worth spending a bit of time observing.
I think that might be the case. I think that's what we should be doing. I should have done that. I should have done that back then. But again, this was before I even started my team or anything like that. But this was just something that was just a catalyst for what we're doing today. Yeah. And it's just, everything is leading to what I'm doing now. So it's amazing, man.
So Bucks County Paranormal. So how long did that last before you moved on? And have you got the same team?
Yeah, I have the same team. Yep. Same team, same guys. That lasted about, I think, 3-4 years, about 3.5 years. Because I didn't want to, you know, we were doing a lot of videos. We still do a lot of videos here in Bucks County, but I didn't want to be pigeonholed just to be in Bucks County, because we're traveling all over the country. So now it's Eric Mintel Investigates, and it's broader. You know, and then we're trying to get a TV show as well. So it's another reason why I wanted to kind of broaden our horizons a bit, because we are getting calls from all over the country. And, you know, so that, and the same team. So I've got my team is Dominic Sattel, who is our spirit medium. Dominic and I have known each other since high school, but I never knew that he was a medium in high school. Right. We practiced sports and did martial arts and stuff together, but I never knew that he was a medium until he came into the group, and he said, oh yeah, you know, I'm a spirit medium too, and I could probably help you out a lot on these cases. I was like, you got to be kidding me. That's great. So he kind of gives us a great preview before we go into, you know, these cases. And a lot of times I won't tell Dominic anything about the history. Like, I'll get all the history first from the owner, whoever, wherever we're investigating. And then most of the time, I won't even tell him where we're going until we get there. And then he corroborates, and then I'll corroborate it with him. And I'll tell you, 99% of the time, he's been right on the money with everything.
Yeah, you've done it again. I was just going to say, how accurate is that? You know, I was just going to start with it. How accurate is this man? And what's the, unless you're going to get to it in a case, but like, kind of, what's the most significant thing that he's come up with or found out for you?
Well, we just did a video, which we're releasing soon. It's called A Haunting at the Hanoverville Roadhouse. I didn't tell him anything about this place. He just basically went in blind. He walks in and stands right to the spot where the owner told me that he found a secret room underneath the floor, which was from the Prohibition times here in the States. It was like an old speakeasy. So he was standing right over top, and he said, I'm sensing a trap door, or I'm sensing a secret room. And I had to tell him, I said, well, you're standing over top of it. And it was amazing. And there it was 15 feet down. There was a room down there. And the owner is, he still doesn't know what it was used for. It could have been part of the Underground Railroad. I don't know. But it could have been an old speakeasy. But there's a big tunnel down there. And so it's really, really incredible. And then, so that was one. And then, yeah, that video, when people see that released, this one, we've never investigated a haunting like this before, of this magnitude.
Well, tell us.
And what, oh, wait till you see the video. It's absolutely mind-blowing what we captured. That's the other thing, Paul. When we do these videos, no sooner do we get there, within 5-10 minutes, something is happening. And it was this case in point with a lot of the things we'll talk about, the Beast of Bray Road and all these other things. But yeah, so, and then another team member is Dave Antonow, who's my bass player, friend of mine. We played together for 22 years together. And so Dave and I actually started together in 2016 doing the paranormal, not knowing over the years, you know, that I played with Dave for so long, I never knew he liked video as much as I did. Yeah. So we started doing video and fun stuff. And Dave's more of the skeptic of the group. And to be honest with you, I'll tell you, I go into a lot of these investigations on the skeptical side, especially when it comes to ghosts, not the UFOs, not Bigfoot, not Dogman, but when it comes to the ghost situation, because I want to really look at it scientifically, like what's really going on here? What are people hearing? Are they hearing a pipe upstairs that's not making a knocking sound or something like that? But I will say this to the folks out there, the more I've been doing this and the more that we've been catching on video, orbs, disembodied voices, shadow figures, the more I'm believing there is a thin veil from the here to there. And I don't say that lightly, because some of the stuff we've caught has been incredible.
And do you think, you know, when you actually get a hit, we'll call it, if something happens that's undeniable between you and the team, when the enthusiasm starts to build, does the phenomena become more excitable and accelerated?
It does. It does. It actually, I think it feeds off that energy.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And that was one thing that happened. And I'll tell you, we did an investigation of Bigfoot in the New Jersey Pine Barrens, and that same thing exactly happened, what you just said.
Yeah. So before we get to some of the cryptid accounts, then, do you want to tell us about some of the, in conjunction with the band, some of the haunted places that you've visited and maybe investigated over the years? Because basically that's where it started for you, I would think, is it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, we play in a lot of great old halls, concert halls, and things like that. And even before I started the paranormal TV show, I said, you know, I would get people coming up to me there at the hall saying, "Oh, yeah, by the way, the place is haunted." So I'd be like, "Wow, okay." And they would tell us stories about these people that would, you know, see these figures and things like that. So one place in particular we did, and it's a video that's out. It's called Chills at Cheney Hall. We did a video. This is a very old, turn of the century concert house. But prior to this, it was the Cheney brothers were well-known silk manufacturers in Connecticut, in New England, in Manchester, Connecticut. And beautiful. I mean, it's just a beautiful building, and it's deceiving how big it is from the outside. It's just a lot of rooms. When we did the video, we just found out when we did this video that it actually was used for a hospital for the Spanish flu that happened 100 years earlier. And when we were doing the video, we were just getting over COVID. Yeah. So it was just very, very strange how so that was used as a makeshift hospital. So Dominic was there with me, and he was picking up all kinds of weird energies there. And one of the things that happened was, and you'll see in the video, was in the dressing room, Dominic is doing an EVP. And for those who know what an EVP is, it's basically electro voice phenomena. We're trying to do a recording, ask if there's anyone there, and try to get some kind of response back, because those electronic devices will hear what our ears can't hear, spirit voices and whatnot. Anyway, he says, "Is there anyone here with us? Make a sign." And as he did that, there was a knocking sound in the dressing room on the wall, and you could see it scared the hell out of him. And he just like looked over and we don't know what that was, have no idea. But then found out later that one of the workers there heard the same thing, and they've been seeing the same thing. So these kind of stories, they're all interconnected that way. People are seeing shadow figures. They're hearing these knocks. But here's the thing, Paul. I don't think it was anything malevolent. You know, I don't think it's anything like that. I think Hollywood wants to make it more evil and do that kind of stuff. If there is a haunting, I always say this, if there's a place that's being haunted, maybe it liked being there. That's why it's there. I'm sure there's cases, and I don't want to upset anybody, but I'm sure there's cases where spirits are not, you know, happy and they're angry. You know, and that was one of the things that we actually did encounter at that the Hanoverville Roadhouse, which we're going to be releasing. That was one thing that I just was like never encountered before.
You make a good point there, Eric, because, you know, we talk about ghosts and hauntings, and people become frightened and become edgy. But some of these people that have passed away, let's assume there's a bang on reality to this. They were good people in real life. So why would they change and become terrifying afterwards? So it's just our way of looking at it, and it's like you've just said, it's for Hollywood and for the movies and dark places and dark shadows, and it just creates the edge, doesn't it? But it follows through that's the way it's perceived as well. You know, I mean, if God forbid, if I'd sort of died tonight and I stayed here and Paul's ghost's here, I don't think I'd be wanting to frighten people. But obviously, that's the way it'd appear if I did appear. So
exactly.
So it's what about the disembodied voices then? Does it come across as radio chatter, or is it actual audible voices?
Well, you know, that was another amazing phenomenon. We did a video in Georgia, we were down in Fitzgerald, Georgia. Now, Fitzgerald, Georgia, I found out later, while we were doing the video, and before this, that it was one of the very first areas in the United States that healed after the Civil War. This area of Georgia brought Northerners down to work and to live in peace, you know. And this was one of the first areas there. So a lot of Civil War history. I mean, just a lot of history. So Dave Antonow was with me on this one. And we went into a place called the Carnegie Arts Center. And we're in there, and they have been having a lot of activity there. So the woman had told me she heard footsteps. She's been hearing all kinds of weird sounds and voices. So as we're doing the video, and Paul, a lot of this stuff too happens, we catch a lot of stuff during post-production, you know, whereas where I'm editing the video, I'm like, whoa, I just saw, you know, what did I just see? But a lot of these happened right there live. And so we were in the arts center, and then at the time, I didn't hear it, but we playing it back, there was a disembodied voice, and it was a woman. You could hear it was a woman. I don't know what she said, but you could hear her saying something. And it was while I was asking Dave about this mural that was on the wall, and he was trying to do an EVP. We carry a magnetometer with us as well, and that magnetometer was going off the charts in this place. So the other thing was too, this art center about a month or so prior had housed African art, probably most African art, more than the Smithsonian. But this place, it was this kind of African art that was, I think they explained it as they infused the spirit of the person into this artwork. Yeah. So I just happened to be standing in an area. Now, the artwork wasn't there when we were there. It was next door in this Masonic building, this Masonic lodge that was next door. But I'm standing in an area where there was a warrior, an African warrior statue. And just as I was standing there, you could see on the video, there was an orb that just comes up right behind me. And, you know, we know it's not lens flare. It's not dust. It's not a bug. It's nothing like that. It's not reflections from car. We could all see that. This is something completely different that it's like, that is a phenomenon that we've been catching a lot of times on video.
Where can people see these or some examples of these bits of footage?
They could go right to my YouTube channel. It's Eric Mintel Investigates, and they can like and subscribe there. We've got a lot of videos. We're probably close to 80 videos on there.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. And how much activity do you experience before you start recording? Do you think it knows? Is it performing to order, or does it prefer?
That's a good question. That's a really good question, because it's funny that I think Dominic, whenever I take Dominic out on these investigations, I think he's a magnet for some of these things, because I think it's attracting him, or I don't know what it is, but like I said, we'll no sooner be there and all of a sudden this activity is happening. He'll even feel it prior to us going there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll be driving there and he can sense it for whatever reason, how that happens. There's another woman we use sometimes too, Karen Luchin. She's another spirit medium, very, very good. And she was the same way. Like, she would know about this place driving up to it, not even knowing about it, you know, and would tell us about it. There was a video that we did where she was on it, and we were looking, and she pinpointed where there was a tunnel for the Underground Railroad, and nobody knew about it. Now, even the owner didn't know about it. So it was really interesting stuff. You know, and we get all kinds of different things. So it makes me think that, are these venues that we're in, are they just like, you know, how it's that residual energy?
The concentrated emotion. Do you think it's collective?
Exactly. They're like big warehouses of energy, like stored batteries of energy, of times, people, places, things. And is that like, and I think too, Paul, the other thing is, I think people's antenna are probably more attuned, because I always think that there's a lot more people that are more attuned to the paranormal than the average person. Yeah, but if we tuned into it, we'd probably be into it a lot more. But there are certain people that are just, they could walk in and immediately feel that. When you walk into a building, do you feel like there's something there?
Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. And you know, sometimes when we go out into these locations, everything just feels mundane and ordinary, and then you can hit it another time and there's something there with you. And I don't mean like some cryptid or anything, but there's an atmosphere, there's a presence.
Yeah.
You can even feel fear at, you know, at different emotions. And I think it was, I'm not certain, he'll probably tell me I'm wrong here, but I think it was Steve Ashbridge. We both sort of felt a bit uneasy once when we were up on the East Yorkshire Wolds, and suddenly he felt emotional, and we're talking, might have been Steve, about feeling like you were going to cry.
Wow.
So we're almost as though something were influencing him, do you know? Because that's not Steve. If it was Steve that we're talking about, it's a long time since now. Just before we move from this particular bit, how easy is it to gain access to these places? Because you're going as a band to play jazz, and obviously you find out a little bit about the history. So do you get much resistance? No, you're not coming here to do a
Well, you know, that's another good question. I think we're, you know, and yes and no. But I'll tell you what, Paul, we're like, would we even be talking about this 10 years ago as freely as we are, right?
No, it's spot on.
It's so much more open now, and people are so much more open to this, and they're coming forward with their stories, because I think that stigma of ridicule is not there anymore. I mean, it's there a little bit there, but it's going away. But I'll tell you what we do, and how my company does this is, we're not just going in to do a video on the haunted, you know, on a haunted building. We're going to go in and do the history. We're going to talk about the history. We're going to get a tour of this particular building, because the way I look at it, my show is paranormal tourism. So we're actually showing people what to do, where to go, how to, you know, and we get sponsors and things like that for this. And that's how it becomes like a business that way. And we don't do like individual homes. Like, I get calls from people that say, you know, help me, my house is haunted, you know, and I have to say that we don't do that, but I can, you know, send you to somebody that does. But you know, most of the time people are pretty open-minded. I love working with forward-thinking people that know that the paranormal genre is huge, and that they know that there's going to be people that want to come experience these things. And that's the other thing why I started this, is because there's so much history in the world that people pass by every day and have no clue about.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure your hometown here, there's so much history. So that's why we tell the stories. And even during COVID, I mean, we were thriving doing video because everything was shut down. We were still out there doing video because the idea was, you know, once everything opens up, people are going to want to go out and see these places.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was really great. So yeah, I mean, every so often I get people saying, well, I don't want people to know that you know, I don't want to have any stories like that, and people are, I don't want to scare anybody away. And I always have to say, it's going to be quite the contrary. You're going to have people come in and do this. So I've been blessed to work with a lot of people that, you know, are forward thinking that way.
I'm getting idea as well that your group, you're not always looking for the fear, the screams. You're just looking for some kind of experience and putting that out, because a lot of these that I see on internet and on TV, it's all about fear and screaming and like some demon, or you know.
Yeah.
And you're not about that entirely, are you? It's a mix.
No, I like to pride myself in about the truth. You know, we're focused on the truth of what we are experiencing and what people see. It's real time. Now, when I first started this, though, you know, we were doing funny videos. You know, they were kind of hokey, and you know, but it was just like, because I think humor is a good way of connecting with people. So, but now as we've been going on, the videos have gotten a lot more serious, and we still have a little bit of humor in there, but we did a video just recently, which is another one that's going to be released actually tonight. We're going to be doing a big screening up in my area here on a big movie in a movie theater. And this particular video that we did, it started out as like a very, you know, like a lighthearted video, but it quickly turned very crazy very quickly. And the woman who owns the house, it's a 1759 farmhouse. She had a complete meltdown on camera. Really? And it was nothing staged, no, nothing like that. And I even asked her, I said, do you want to have this on the video? She's like, absolutely. Yeah, she's like, keep it. It was there. That's what happened. Keep it.
Do you want to tell us about this then, Eric?
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about it.
But just want to drop in that anybody with questions for Eric, as Les said earlier in show, and Sky's probably typed, because I've not been looking at chat, please put them in capital letters, and they'll get fired over to Les, and we shall get to them in probably 10 minutes or so. So, yeah, sorry to cut across you there, Eric.
No. And by the way, Paul, let me also say thank you for what you're doing in your research. I mean, you've got some incredible guests on. So it's an honor for me to be on the show and talking about this.
This is really just wonderful. I'm sure everybody's interested in what you've got to share with us. So fire away.
This particular case was good friends of ours that they own an architectural salvage company. So, you know what that is. It's like, you know, they're preserving history. So this 1759 farmhouse is connected to the property. And the woman has always felt there's been energy there. It's not been malevolent, but it's a lot of emotional energy. So she's seeing, you know, she's sensing it. And I said, well, why don't we do a video? Why don't we do a video? They were already sponsors of ours. So we did a video for them as well on top of that. And we called it Hallowed Grounds of the Homestead. And that's going to be coming out this weekend. But we did this video. And when we were in this particular room, the magnetometer that I had over in this area was going off the charts, and there was hardly any wires or anything, because a lot of times a magnetometer could go off with electric, you know, if you're near electric source, you're near cameras or whatever. But we keep it to the minimum when it comes to cameras. But this thing was going off the charts in this one area of the room. And then I happened to look over, and I saw, like, she had a vase that was on the table, and I thought I saw it go like this. I thought I just saw the leaves of it, that she had flowers in there. I thought I saw them move. And I said to her, I said, Beth, I don't want to alarm anybody, but I think I saw this move. Well, with that, she sees this vase, and she's also a designer, a home designer. She said, I did not put that there. I did not put that there. It was not there. And as she's doing this, she's getting more and more hyperventilated, and she couldn't breathe. And she lost her breath. There was an energy that was moving through her that was trying to tell her something, which Dominic found out later. It was trying to tell her something, but it wouldn't talk to Dominic. It wanted to talk to a woman. And Beth wasn't ready. And that's what happened. And when people see this, that was exactly what happened real time. It was just like amazing. And that's why I said to her, I said, Beth, do you really want to have you on here? Because she was crying. She was doubled over, and not in pain, but just emotional distress. And she says, no, keep it because that's what happened. And yeah, it was amazing.
And that's this weekend you're going to be playing that.
Yep.
And do you know, when you said you thought you saw the leaves on the plant or the flowers in the vase, and then earlier you were on about the knock, all things that, I don't mean you're the only people experiencing this. I mean, lots of people do, but how do we kind of quantify that physical that's not there? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They could just open a door, couldn't they? I'm playing devil's advocate here, but how can they knock? Is it just sounds that they're producing, and it's not actually a knock? Or are they playing with your mind or my mind and actually placing them sounds in our minds? Are they that clever? I don't know.
That's a really good question, because I think you just hit on something there, because there is a phenomenon called thought transference. So if you see a ghost, all of a sudden someone else sees a ghost, it's one of these things. But in this particular case, I don't think that was the case, because it was a physical thing that we heard. It was some kind of, physically we didn't see it, but we heard it. And that was the other thing. And it was just right there. It was so clear it had been right there. But yeah, that's another thing. They could be putting those sounds, they could be producing those sounds that only our ears could hear it.
Yeah,
that particular person.
You often wonder, don't you? The walking along floorboards, or we can hear it, but do we see floorboards flex? I mean, you're saying that you thought you saw the flowers move, and I just can't get my head around this physicality that they've got. Yet they're just fresh air. They're just nothingness. And
and so that's what I thought. I thought, because those floors give a little bit. And like I said, where I tend to go skeptically into these things, I thought, well, did I hit the floor? Was I walking over in that floor, and that's what was causing it to move?
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case, because I was standing still, and that's when I just happened to turn around. I just turned around like this. I didn't even I just turned my torso to turn around and looked at it. And so that was one. But I'll tell you what, Paul, there's another one that we're releasing that is absolutely even more compelling to that. And this is something, and it's again back at that Hanoverville Roadhouse. The owner showed me security camera footage that he had, and it's just a static shot of the dining room. And within, like, you could see it in the video, there's a little tiny flash of light, and all of a sudden the chair comes busting out of the table. The chair was pushed in, it then pushed across the floor. Crazy. Never saw anything like that. Then 5 minutes later, same time frame, you can see the timestamp, an orb comes over and goes over by the chair, and out from that table, you see the sugar container gets thrown on the floor. So what was that? Now, Dominic and I went over there, and I thought, well, could there be somebody back here? Could there be someone back there throwing something? Could it be a string? Somebody's pulling the chair.
Yeah.
But looking at that, and when we got there, it was completely, all of those explanations were completely taken care of, because number one, it was a very heavy, heavy chair. There's no way you could have fishing line. It would snap if you tried to even do that. The other thing was, there's a wall that's built out on the bottom. So there's no way that anybody could be back there, because they would be seen by the security camera that was there if they were even out a little bit. So it was just, that was one that we really couldn't explain. But the one thing, I don't want to give it away yet, but what we found in the attic, and when people see this was unbelievable. We put a static camera in the attic, and when I go into a lot of these places, I don't feel a lot of the things like Dominic would feel, like he would feel those presence. I don't really feel that. There's been very rarely times that I've felt that, but I did feel it in this attic of this restaurant. And both Dominic and I were getting feelings of like vertigo. It was just very we're all like kind of dizzy, something like that. So we put a static camera up there. We went downstairs immediately, did the rest of the investigation, went and looked at that footage afterward, couldn't believe what we found. And even the owner was like, he was blown away by it too. So that's something people are going to have to tune in to see, because it is really incredible.
You will have to, before we end tonight, then you're going to have to give them some kind of direction where they're going to find it. I know you've got
Yeah.
your YouTube channel, but is that it, or is it? Can we find it anywhere else?
Oh yeah, you can find it all. You can find it YouTube. You can find it on my Facebook page. People can go right on my Facebook page, Eric Mintel Investigates, on my regular page for Eric Mintel. Also, I don't know, do you guys have Roku over there? Do you have the Roku channel?
Well,
No,
I don't know. Les might know. But Eric, before we get to some more accounts, and we're not desperate to hear about the Beast of Bray Road and your experience there, but we do want to hear about it before we end tonight. But let's just see whether Les has got any questions from people in chat, please.
Yes, thank you, Paul. And great show up to now. And people in the chat are also enjoying it as well, Eric. So thank you very much for coming on tonight's show.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, I have a few questions. First of all, I've got to thank Lee Roscoe for tonight's super chat. Thank you, Lee. It was a great donation. And coupled with that, he's saying, what a show. It really is truth proof. And thank you, Lee. He's got a question to go with that, as Lee. And it's for you, Eric. Hi, Eric. Thanks for your time tonight, first of all. Can you tell me what ghost gadget have you had the best results on when you've been on these ghost hunts?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, the magnetometer is really one of the best things that we've used for getting those residual energies, and the EVP as well. But for those that aren't familiar, a magnetometer is really going to measure the Earth's electromagnetic energy, or any electromagnetic energy that's in an area that could be associated with spiritual phenomena. And a lot of times we'll be looking, you know, here's the thing. A lot of times we'll be having this magnetometer, and even outside in certain areas, like when we're looking for the Beast of Bray Road or something like that, this magnetometer is going off the charts in certain areas. Now, what is that area? Are they certain lines of the Earth that it's picking up this energy from? So that's something we're still looking into, but that's been a really great tool. We use a night vision camera, and that's another great tool, because for some odd reason, and people say, why do all investigations take place at night? And I think when night comes, you've got a lot less of the buzz activity going on all day, because we all work on frequencies, right? So there's always frequencies going through. So even during the daytime, it's a lot more than it would be at night. So it's a little calmer at night, and you could kind of tune in a little bit more that way. So the night vision camera has been incredible. We've caught so many different things on this camera. We were out in, and it's not the camera itself. These are actually things that we can't explain, because that's one thing you could look at. You could say, well, could it be the camera? And it's not, because we've used other cameras, even not night vision, and we've still caught orbs right on video. I was talking to a server at a restaurant, and he was telling me his ghost story. As he's telling me this, something caught my eye, and I didn't really, look at it initially, but then looking at the footage afterward, it was an orb that just literally came through, and I was like, oh my God. So the other thing is we use EVP, and the EVP is like a little handheld device like that. It's like a voice recorder, like a doctor would say, okay, he'd put his plans into it he'd give it to his secretary to navigate. But it's really a device where you could record areas that our ears can't hear. And that's what that EVP is. It's catching voices that are not audible to our own ears. But when you play it back, you can maybe hear something there. We haven't had that much luck, to be honest with you, with EVPs, but I haven't used it a lot either. So, that's something that we're going to look into. I did catch one time where we were asking if someone was there, and you could hear a woman humming, and it was real, and there was nobody around. So it was really weird.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, thanks for that, Eric. I got Patricia Adams Wright. Welcome to the show, Patricia. Eric, what are your thoughts about the Beast of Bray Road? Now, I know you're going to be talking about this later on, Eric, so we'll leave that one.
Well, thanks, Pat.
We'll leave that one, Patricia, yeah.
I'll just say, Patricia, it's real.
Yeah. Richard is saying Fire in the Sky film with Travis Walton. The Travis Walton UFO looks like molten lava, unless that's just how the film portrayed it.
Yeah, I talked to Travis too, and I'm sure you have too, Paul. He's a great guy. What a great guy. Number one, Travis is really down to earth, really incredible person. And I think he even said too. I think Hollywood kind of embellished a lot of that, the movie itself, because it wasn't really what happened to him in that movie. Some of it was. I mean, when he encountered the UFO and getting hit by it, yeah, that was all. But all the rest of the stuff of him being tortured like that I don't think that ever happened according to his account. But yeah, I mean, what they were seeing, what he saw, what looked like a sunset, was actually this object hovering in the woods. As they got closer to it, he realized, well, it's not a sun, it's glowing, but it's not the sun, it's an actual solid object.
Yeah.
So just to see that, amazing.
It's interesting. Just one sec, Les, and I've probably got another question, so I'm sorry to butt in here, but the sunset, I'd not realised Travis thought he saw a sunset, but because I've got an account in first book of a pilot in a vintage aircraft. I can't remember the date, but something tells me it were about 2011. He's flying this vintage aircraft that weren't equipped to fly at night, and so he had to get back. He said, and he's gauging it by the weather conditions and the sun, and he turns to his right and he sees a second sun, and he can't work it out, and he's looking at this sphere of light. It's not quite dark, this orange ball that he thinks looks like the sun, but he can see the sun. And then the next thing, he did a few analogies, and one of them were almost like the plane had flown into a cobweb in the air, or you'd applied the brakes without skidding, and the plane's stationary. But there's three meters on this plane. There's the revs, and there's the altitude. There's something else, and everything's working. He's flying, but he's not moving. And the next thing he recalls, and I'll do this quickly because we're going to go to another question. The next thing he recalls is being in the plane and he's in darkness. And if it wasn't for a tractor in the field below, and he said, I think he said there were some 37 kV power lines, and he had to get past them. He wouldn't have known. He thought about going to Humberside Airport, but he didn't know how to tell him what had happened.
Wow.
And he landed in a field very close to Willie Howe, which is a burial mound that's got lots of strange stories attached to it. But
wow.
Sorry to butt in with that one, but okay, Les, if we've got another question, let's go
That's
for
wild.
it. Yeah, really good story.
Yeah, Patricia Adams writes with another question. Did your medium, Eric, have any experience with a UFO?
Yes. He's had several encounters. And when we were she talked about the Beast of Bray Road. When we were out in Wisconsin, we'll talk about that too. We had a trifecta of paranormal activity, which included a UFO.
Okay. I can just briefly, I can see that I think Mike from MK Exploration thinks I need a nap or some matchsticks for my eyes. I don't, mate, so I can assure you that. I'm really enjoying this, so all good.
Okay, I've got to... well, I'm just going to slip a question of my own in here,
okay,
Eric. And it relates to this. It's quite simple. You talked about when you go and experience this phenomena in these haunted places or reputed to be haunted, and everything works on a frequency, yeah?
Right.
Then your knowledge of music, have you ever actually introduced music into harmonics, as it were, into bringing this phenomena into the room?
You know what? That is a brilliant question. And you must have been reading my mind, because that's one thing that we're going to start doing, is bringing in some music. And why I haven't thought about that, or why I haven't done that since we started that, is beyond me. But it's just because we're just so baffled by what we're already encountering. But that is something that I do believe that there is a real strong connection with, with music, especially with my saxophone player in my quartet. Even if we played a sax I think we were playing somewhere, and there was this a resonant energy that happened alongside of that. the other thing with jazz too and music, and why we're in that frequency thing, is we've been playing together so long, like over 25 years. It's almost like the four of us are reading each other's minds, you know? And when you're in a musical situation like that, there is a chemistry that happens, not just listening, but there's an extrasensory thing that happens with that. That's why I think most jazz musicians are more attuned to, say, the paranormal, because we're always thinking ahead. We're always thinking to the next chord, the next melody, whatever, you know, the next tune, but we're always on that heightened sense of reality. And so, yeah, that's something that we're going to do next time. Les, I'm gonna introduce. I think I'm gonna introduce Dave Brubeck's Take 5 into our next investigation.
Excellent. Great.
Yeah, well, yeah. Please don't forget, Eric, that you got the idea from me.
I got it. That's it. It's all you.
Before we move away from the music and the sound, I spoke to a guy called Patrick at Flamborough about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago. He'd come to stay for a few days. He might even be listening to this, I don't know, but he will do at some point, I would think. He were looking for unexplained phenomena. This is the guy that saw the red light close to the helicopter near the lighthouse. But there's a huge sea cave at Flamborough. It's absolutely monstrous. You could drive double-decker buses into it, yet you go through a small opening at North Landing to get into this cave. Where am I going with this? He knew about the cave, and he were asking me if it was safe to go in, because a lot of times people go in it and they get cut off because tide comes around behind them and it fills up with water and they can't get back.
Oh, wow.
So I told him to be very careful. And there were a low tide early morning, and he went down. This is about 6 weeks ago. And he didn't know what to do. He were unsure. And he said there's 3 people on the beach. He said they were dressed rather strangely. A bit sort of way out, hippie type clothing, strange to him. So he got speaking to them and asked them, they were heading towards cave, and he asked them if they were going in, and they said they were. And it turns out they said they were shaman. Nothing to do with anything I'm doing, nothing at all. And he went into the cave with them. Now we've got this film, he filmed them. So it's not, you know, we're not just producing a story. There's no unexplained phenomena involved, but it's interesting. He said they got to the bottom of the cave and they stripped off. There were 2 women and 1 man. So they got naked, early morning, October, so it's going to be freezing cold. And they sat in a pool at the edge of the sea, and you can see the silhouette of the people, and they're playing one of these sound bowls, and they believed there were a portal, and they're trying to open it. And apparently they come regular. No knowledge of anything that we're doing. So it just shows that there's a lot of other people interested in this area, and I would think in your area, you know. But that was it was the music, it was the sound that they were playing, trying to evoke something, you know. And Les's question just, I don't know, it just made me think of it then. As I say, and he filmed them. He said, "Do you mind if I film you?" And I've sent it to a few people. I think last person I sent it to was Mick Park. But I don't know if you've seen it, have you, Les?
I have. Well, it's
no. Sorry, I haven't seen it.
No, as well, Eric, and I'll ask Patrick
to
post it up. It's interesting. There's nothing rude, people. All you can see is silhouette of these people, but it's beautiful.
You know, it's amazing that, you know, because, you know, sound. They were also talking about sound waves, how they built the pyramids.
Yeah,
by using. Yeah, exactly. And could that be a possibility too? You know, sound vibrations are really, really powerful. I mean, it's like water. You know, water is the softest substance in the world, but, you know, we all know the damage it can do.
Yeah, without
so
a doubt.
I think all of that stuff is feasible, but the whole thing is how could we tap into that? You know, and the other thing is too, speaking of the oceans, I think you know, I don't know how you feel too, but I feel like UFOs and extraterrestrials are I think they're coming from our ocean, because I think they're coming a lot closer than we think, either coming from the oceans or coming from the moon. Because the frequency of seeing these things, it's massive, unless they figured out how to bend space and time. But that was my theory, because you're seeing a lot of these Navy pilots watching these things go into the ocean.
Yeah.
And for years, people have been seeing these things come out of the ocean as well. So could that have something to do with it as well? You know, maybe, and there are some people that have those connections to something, that otherworldly type thing that we have no clue about.
Yeah, well, you know, in next week or so, we're going to have another guy on, great guest, Ben Walgate, who has his own channel, the 401 Files. And Ben's going to tell us, I would think, while he's talking to us, about a UFO coming out of the sea at Flamborough. He didn't see, but an account that he was told. It's not mine, so it's not fair for me to sort of go through it. Well, who owns them? But I think if somebody gets a first-hand account, it's good to hear the person who relay it, you know. So
absolutely,
a lot of UFO activity out at sea and things seen beneath the surface of the sea around East and North Yorkshire. Les, more questions, please.
Yes, I've got a great question. Got a question from Michael Adams. Thanks for the question, Michael. Eric, do you think the Phoenix lights were flares?
I think there were two events that night, and that's a great question. I think the earlier time frame that people saw those lights, that was definitely a craft. And I think later on, they could have been flares later. But I think the thing that people saw that were coming over their heads, that really wasn't, I don't think it was really captured. I don't think anybody really captured that on video. You see those lights that came on, they were kind of like that was a really great video that way. And I think that could have been the craft. But if we even go back to that, those, as you see, the flares, I think the flares that came down, they kind of disappear behind the mountain, you know, and they were up enough that, you know, if you see a flare, they're pretty erratic as they're coming down, right? But these were just straight across. And that's the compelling part. How could they be flares, right? How are they so straight? You know, so I'm kind of debunking my own answer here. You know, it's like, how could they be flares?
And plus, let's just jump to the use of a flare, and it's to illuminate the area. And these things didn't appear to be illuminating great expanses of light around them, did they?
Right, and they were over a populated area too, which was not good. So that was another thing. Well, that goes back to the Phoenix lights, and I'm sure your listeners would know about the Hudson Valley UFOs that were in New York from 1985 to maybe 89. Thousands and thousands of people seeing this triangular craft, pretty much just like the Phoenix lights. And people saw it plain as day, got video. So that kind of phenomena has been going on for a long time. What it is, who knows? People were saying, well, it could have been a military thing, but I don't know. You know, that's the fascinating part about this scientific research and the paranormal phenomena, because we never have a definitive answer, right? We never have, like, we always leave with more questions than answers, right? And that's what we're trying to do. We're telling those stories.
And you end up opening a door and going down another avenue that it just takes you to an unexpected place. That's very
exactly
true. Okay, Les.
Okay, I think at this juncture, I'll probably hand it back to you guys. But one thing I've got to mention is that I apologise for Eric's poor picture quality on tonight's stream. But I can assure you, 2 minutes before going live on air, Eric's picture was absolutely fantastic.
It was crystal.
And it was crystal clear, and he really is as good looking as he looks. I'll hand over to you guys.
Okay, well, we'll probably go back to a few of these places that you've investigated with the band, but let's talk about first of all the not so important one, I think, in your mind. Is it the Bedminster Beast?
Oh yeah, that was kind of a made up kind of creature there. That was something we did when we first started this, you know. And it's funny, I was just at a Comic-Con recently, and the one guy had said to me, Eric, I never even knew the Bedminster Beast Man existed. And I said, it doesn't. I made it up.
And that's what's good, because I mean, openly you put that out straight away that it were nothing unexplained, but you'd made it up. But people have picked up the mantle, and some people probably think it is real. I wonder, have you had any people claim to have seen it?
No. Nobody's seen it, but I will say this though. just recently, back in August, I got a report that a father and son were driving down the road, literally right around the corner, and I live in Bedminster, so just around the corner, that they saw about a 7 to 8 foot shadow, tall shadow figure cross the road in front of them. Right. So for all intents and purposes, it was a Bigfoot sighting.
Yeah.
And so listen, I'm not opposed to anything. It's traveling. I mean, this thing is all over. Now, look, we had those fires out in California. Why isn't it plausible that that creature is coming east?
Yeah,
to get away from and keeping, not creatures. I think there's a lot more than one. But yeah, we were doing that as a filmmaker. You know, we were doing that, making it like, and that was honing our skills as videographers and things like that. But yeah, a lot of people like that, and a lot of people liked the humor part of it. You know, which is really important to me. It really connects people. But a lot of what we're doing now, we still have the humor in there. But a lot of what we're doing now is very, very, like, we're on the serious, on the cutting edge stuff. It's incredible.
So I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but tell our listeners about the Bryn Athen Beast.
You said it beautifully, Paul. Beautifully. Oh, right off the tongue. Beautiful.
Right then.
Roll those R's beautifully.
Just right. I'll be 2 minutes, so we'll leave you. You and let's talk for a minute. I'll be 2 minutes. Just got to do something.
Okay. So, Les, I'll tell you. I wish we could get. Is the picture still bad there?
It's reasonable, Eric.
Okay. I don't know what happened there. Maybe it'll be better when it gets, you know, downloaded and everything. People will see it as we go. But I'll tell you, you know, the Bryn Athen Beast is something when Paul gets back, we'll talk about. And it's something that we've been, actually, it's another Dogman encounter, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners will know about. This is something that pretty much came to me back in May. And it's something that we've been working on. I had heard about it, but I didn't know too much about it. And I'm sure, I don't know if you have ever interviewed Tom Carey.
No, never.
Okay. Tom Carey, and I can make a connection with you guys too. Tom basically is the authority on the Roswell UFO crash. He has written 7 books about it, along with Don Schmidt, his partner, his writing partner. And so Tom, I didn't realize, is also an anthropologist. So he had been getting reports from people in that area, which is about 40 minutes from where I am. And it's a little bit above Philadelphia. But he had been getting reports from people saying that they've been seeing this 6 to 7 foot tall bipedal dogman type werewolf type creature. And the weird thing is it's sometimes seen on all 4s, and then it's also seen on 2 legs. But the description mirrors exactly like the Beast of Bray Road, where the way this thing walks, it like glides when it walks. It shouldn't, you know, like humans are like, you know, bouncing when we walk. Yep. This is just gliding along when it walks. So when we did the Beast of Bray Road investigation and got those accounts of people saying that, it's really closely tied to those 2 creatures. So there's something going on there it's a lot deeper than that.
So is it new to you, the story, or is it new to the area? Is it?
It's new to me.
You know, over decades.
Yeah, oh, decades. Yeah, that's what I found out later. It's new. It's new to me, but it's been in that area for decades. I mean, going back to the 1900s. Really? I mean, the early part of the century. Yeah, of the last century. But yeah, and the people are seeing this thing, and you know, the beautiful thing is people are actually coming on camera to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, and except one guy who didn't want his name to be known, but we kept him anonymous. But that area down there is a very close-knit community, so they were afraid of it making it a big spectacle type thing. But people know about it. People have known about it. There's a lot of electromagnetic energy going on down there. We have a doctor who's actually looking at the footage with us, and we're going to be doing a follow-up video. and we're going to look at the magnetometer readings and find out what areas that where the creature's been seen, and tie that in with the magnetometer readings and what's in that area, what's in the soil, what is in that area. So that's that's ongoing right now. So that's a brand new case.
Do you think the locals, I mean, is it heavily populated?
It is. It's a very heavily populated area.
Right. So it's not a village or anything, is it? Are they worried about making the place a thoroughfare for hunters or people interested in this subject? They are,
and that was one of the things that we had to be careful of too, because we want to respect everybody's privacy and things like that. And even when we did the newspaper wrote a story on it, and we had mentioned we probably shouldn't say anything about Bryn Athen, on the cover. We have to mention it in the story, but but it came out in the newspaper. It said "Hunting the Bryn Athen Beast" right on the front page. So, but we got some great publicity, and people didn't care. I mean, it was no. It's something that needs to be talked about because people are seeing this creature. So we're planning on doing another follow-up. We did a night investigation, didn't encounter anything, but I did encounter some weird EVPs.
Right.
On video, not on the EVP, but on video, we heard a male voice say the word "hey," and then another one that went "whoa" like that. And it wasn't us, and it was definitely not us. So it was just very strange how we caught that on video in that area that we were looking for the beast.
And so when you were doing this investigation, were you in a remote area? Meaning, is there a chance that it could have just been somebody a few blocks away going, "Hey"?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. We were in an area, we were behind a church, and in the church, it's a big area, a lot of grass, a lot of acreage there. And we were down in what was a baseball field. And that's where this guy had originally seen it. And, but there's one house there, but nobody was there behind us. The rest of it was all open and nobody around.
What's it done? Has it frightened people? Has there just been sightings of it? Is there any accounts of it hurting anyone?
No accounts of it hurting anybody, but it has been seen, and I don't think it's not more frightened. I think it's more perplexed by what they're seeing. They're curious about what is going on here. What am I seeing? And a girl saw this in 2005. She was looking at this creature going, what is going on down there? And here in this, right across from the college, it's walking on all fours in this ravine. And then all of a sudden it pops up on two legs and then goes back down on all fours and disappears. There's been other reports of the thing jumping from one area like this, like snapshots, like it's going through certain portal areas or something. It's very weird.
So these things, just my opinion here, is they're definitely not your normal mundane flesh and blood animal, are they? They are something other. And I realise I'm saying that loosely because I haven't got a clue, I haven't got a clue exactly what they are. And we do have experts out there who will tell you, but I don't actually think they know anything. They're just making things up. But have you any thoughts about the way they move and the gliding? Like you said, this thing just glides, it arrives.
I don't know. I mean, it's just like, is it the way its anatomy is that it makes it look like it should be? The way it's walking, it's making it look like it doesn't look like how it's moving,
I think there's something else to it, Eric, and my reasoning for that is I'll just tell you one account from a place called Arwood Dale up in North Yorkshire, close to where we live, and some mountain bikers and people who have heard me talk about this one before observed this thing as they're going down a logging road, paralleling, pacing them. And it's about 30 foot away in the bracken, but there's rocks, there's divots, there's trees. And I suppose it could be its anatomy, but it's almost got to be on a gimbal or a sliding track because they said it would just going downside and it doesn't seem possible. One of our witnesses for Wolfland, and Les knows who I'm going to talk about, Jeff, the gamekeeper, he watched this thing. He got hunkered down under some trees the night after it had observed him in the farmhouse. And when it came out at Forest, he said his analogy was it were like a torch beam going down. It weren't lit up, but it was that smooth. It didn't.
Wow.
No movement or gated. No leg movement, no shoulder movement. It arrived. And
Yeah.
you're same thing. And we're not saying we're not breaking new ground here, are we, Eric? A lot of people are saying similar things.
Similar things, and it's amazing to me. And I'm thinking, there was one theory was like, we're talking about portals, right? Where there's different portals in the world. Could this creature or creatures be going from different portals, like where you guys saw it, where you saw the creature, maybe map out like the next night where it was seen in the world, and try to connect those dots, right?
Yeah, I know that we're going to touch on Beast of Bray Road, and I spoke to you about it. I think in week earlier in week. Well, I know we did, and I asked you the month, and I think you said October.
Yeah, just a few weeks. It was just a few weeks ago. Was a year that we were there. Yeah,
and we've got sightings in October in Danes Dyke and around that area, which is interesting. I mean, it don't mean that the same thing. I'm not trying to say that, but it's interesting nevertheless. So before we move on to Beast of Bray Road, what about the documentary In Plain Sight? What's your involvement in that?
Well, In Plain Sight, good friends of mine, Tyler Transu and Chris Rupert, they have a company called Dockside Media, and they are putting out some incredible footage or just incredible documentaries on Sasquatch. They're putting documentaries on Bigfoot, UFOs, ghosts. So this particular one is called In Plain Sight, UFOs and the Intelligence Community. And some really great interviews. I was interviewed on there talking about my UFO experience. Some really great high ups in the UFO paranormal world are interviewed. So it's out right now. I think it's on Amazon.com and all those, any kind of streaming outlet that you guys, but it's called In Plain Sight. And so, yeah, they just.
Did you get to meet any people that were in it, or?
Oh, no, only because they came to my house and interviewed me. Right. So they did interviews with everybody, and they went to their houses to interview. And so this was back in May, and they came to the house, interviewed me, great guys, and they all put it together now. So it's all it's out there, and it's getting a lot of really great reviews now. So it's a really good thing.
Is this the one that Rick Doty's in?
Yes, as a matter of fact. Yep.
Yeah. I've met Rick a few times now, and I know he's a bit controversial in UFO community, but
right.
An absolutely great guy. I really enjoy his company, which probably won't go down well with some people, but.
Can I just come in there, guys? Yeah, there is a trailer out for that very film, Eric, and I think I posted it on Philip Mantle's Facebook page the other day.
Oh, great!
Really? For a link.
But I'll put that in the description of this broadcast, Eric, as well.
Oh, that's great.
So in the description is your Facebook page and also the YouTube channel that
beautiful.
you run.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll let you. Yeah.
Awesome. Excellent. So I think let's move on to the Beast of Bray Road, because I think everybody in chat's going to know what we're talking about here, and or what you're going to tell us. So how did it go?
Well, I'll just say this. I had always heard about the Beast of Bray Road. I again, being a paranormal researcher, I didn't know too much about it. I had heard about it. I knew it was a phenomenon out in Elkhorn, Wisconsin, and people were seeing this upright canine, again, werewolf type, dog man type creature. But I never really put too much sense to it. Just because I'm here in Pennsylvania, and that's Wisconsin. But one of our fans and friends, Ellen Collins, she loves what we do and loves all the videos and loves the storytelling that we're doing. And she had said, and she loves paranormal, she said, you guys should do a video on the Beast of Bray Road. And I said, I would love to do that. I said, the only thing is, I don't know how we're going to get out there and who's going to pay for it, and so she wound up paying for the whole thing, paid our way out there and everything. So I made her the executive producer. And so her name's on it. And so prior to this, we had talked about that. I guess it was in July. Was it? Yeah, I think it was in July of 2020. December of 2020, I had seen a paranormal program with Lee Hampel, who is the farmer, the owner of this farm that has had all this activity. And I just said, like I had that epiphany of calling the White House, I had said that night, I said, I'm going to call Les. So I wound up, I'm going to plug you guys in my phone here because I don't want to run out of charge here. So I had called, Lee, and had said, I had just seen you on TV on this great paranormal documentary, and we talked for 2 hours. And I said, I'm a paranormal investigator. We would love to come out there. Would we be able to get access to your property? He's like, absolutely. I mean, he sent me so many pictures, unbelievable pictures that would blow your mind. So then we went out there, and then we went out October 2nd through the 4th. This is just last year. And when we get out there, it's amazing how big of an expanse and area it is. I've seen programs where, Wisconsin is pretty flat. It's pretty flat. There's not a lot of trees. There's not a lot of forests. But where Lee is on that property, he's got a wood line. He's got trees all around. There's also, when we were there, the corn was up. So the tall corn was up. So we met Lee, great guy, and his brother Fred, phenomenal guys. Lee showed us so many pictures. We went into his barn. He showed us his presentation of, just footprints. That you see the creature on video or on camera. It's like blurry, but it's up close to the trail cam. You could see the fur. But he's got hair samples, translucent hair samples, that under the microscope, these hair samples are translucent, and they're absent of the medulla. So all of that is just, the other pictures he had were these orbs that were in the daylight sky. And here inside the orb, you could see something in crossway in the orb, something dark inside that orb. And so I was thinking to myself, could this thing be coming from the air? Is it dropping down from something? Anyway, so we went to Lee's, and we did some reconnaissance during the day. This was during the day on October 3rd, during the day. And one of the reasons why I think this was a portal area, and some of your listeners will probably understand this too, Scott, so the team that day was me, Dominic Sattel, Spirit Medium, this was totally out of his wheelhouse, Ellen Collins, and Ellen's son, Scott, who worked the camera, and he was also doing drone work. So during the day, we go down to the area, the bait area, where Lee has had all this activity happening. And Scott has to wear these virtual reality glasses when he's doing the drone. So as we're going through the field and we're going over this particular part of the field, we disappeared on Scott's screen so that was a phenomenon right there. We completely disappeared off of this one little area. He didn't know where we were. And then he had to take the glasses off and kind of reconfigure himself again. And then he found us, but we disappeared. So this is something that we're looking into as well.
But
this is
just to pull you up, just 1 second. I'm sorry to stop you mid.
No, go ahead.
All the camera work, everything was crystal clear, but you disappeared.
Right.
So you're still filming the land, the contours of the land and everything else.
And it's like we walked into something and went away.
Yeah, excellent location.
And it was, and I wish he had been recording that, because he was just looking, he was just looking at things. He didn't record that. So, so then I found out about this later. So then we get down to the area, and Lee's showing us the area that he's had all the activity. Paul, there is a picture that Lee has of this very strange mist. It's a black mist that comes up, right? It's in the trail cam. And one picture, he put some road-killed deer, like deer that were killed in the road, and he brought them over to the bait site. And he put the deer down. So in this one picture, you see this mist coming over the deer. And those trail cam pictures are about 30 seconds timed apart. In the next picture, the deer is gone, and so's the mist. Very strange, very, very weird stuff. Then he's got a lot of these other weird UFO lights going through the woods. And I've been in those woods because I wanted to see that. I saw those lights. I thought, well, maybe they were like motorcycles or, you know, all-terrain vehicles or something like that going through the woods, and they were lights. But we were there, and the woods are so thick, there's no way that anybody could be driving them, because you'd have to stop every second to get around the trees.
Yeah.
And it was just, these lights are just smoothly going through the
Because
woods
they
like
know
that.
that they'll never win.
Crazy. So later that night, or before we left to do the investigation, we decided to bait the area with steak bones that we had the night before.
Steak bones. Okay.
Yep. So we put steak bones in the tree. Scott put a GoPro on the tree pointing toward the steak bones, so we would get something at least coming toward that way. So we went back to Lee's, and my head was spinning, and I'm thinking to myself, was baiting that area with steak bones a good or bad idea? I was really concerned about that. Not thinking, you know, what was going to happen. But here, guys, this is the other thing I got to tell you. I went out there thinking that we were going to do a great documentary. We're going to do a great story. We're going to hear great stories from people, not ever thinking once that we'd ever actually encounter this creature. Why, and hence why I didn't take any protection with us either. So we get down to the bait area that night, and we thought we'd have to scrub the whole mission because it was cloudy. I thought it was going to rain. So we thought we wouldn't be able to do it. But we pushed on. After we left Lee's barn, he gave us some motorcycle ATVs to take down, because it's a good half a mile to get down from Lee's property down to the area. So Dominic goes, do you think we're going to scare it away with these motorcycles? I said, probably not, you know, and that theory was tested, but oh my God. So we get down to the area, and no sooner do we get to the area, the whole sky opened up clear. It was clear. You could see the stars, you could see planes. So as we're looking up, Dominic right away goes, he looks up and says, what the hell is that? And here, right over the field, right above our heads, is a huge white orb, a white light just going straight across over top. And it wasn't a plane. You could see other planes that were in the area that were blinking. This is just a solid orb going right over our heads. And we're trying to figure out what it is. You know, it's not making any sound. You can't hear it. And with that, we're looking at this thing, and we caught it all on video. And it makes a 45-degree angle, and it blinks out, disappears.
So that rules out the space station or anything like that, doesn't it?
Exactly. I was just going to say that. Yeah, we looked at where the trajectory would be of like the space station or anything like that, and it wasn't that. It wasn't any Starlink satellites, nothing. Okay. So that was the theory that we looked at, but it wasn't there. And this was just something that was there and that just blinked out. Right after that is when, and I'll tell you why I think this other thing is tied in with the UFO. Right after that, we heard a very faint howl in the distance, and then another one that was closer. And Dominic goes to Ellen, and Ellen looked like she was looking up still at the UFO, but Ellen seemed to be in like this trance-like state when we were out there. And Dominic just had to tap her on the shoulder and say, are you hearing this howl? And he's like, yes, we're hearing it. And right after she said that, she said it's coming from over there. And with that, we hear this third howl, which you could definitely clear as day hear on the video. It's this low guttural scream, yell, growl combined that was very monotone. And to me, it sounded like a man screaming in the field. It was that deep yell. And it was monotone, so it didn't pitch. It was just, and it kept going. And it was like, wow, that was right there was my whole perspective of this investigation changed to say there's something there. And so then right after that, this very weird mist came up from the ground, and I call it electronic fog, because what was happening, it was cutting out the audio in our microphones. And this sound that we got, Paul, was so loud that we had little lavalier microphones on. It was that loud that those lavaliers picked it up.
Yeah, yeah.
And when we still stayed there. I mean, we still stayed there. We didn't have any protection, nothing like that. And I didn't know what to do. I mean, we were just kind of looking around. You're trying to figure out what it was, because I wasn't scared per se. I was more perplexed on like, what is this thing? Where is it coming from? Now, if we would have seen it, and it's this 7-8 foot tall thing, yeah, then that's all game over. It's another story. But we kept hearing like rustling sounds going on behind us.
It were more of an experience than a sighting, this thing, weren't it?
This was an experience, but the experience soon turned into a physical sighting, because we shined the light. We heard this howl, we could hear it, we didn't see it, but we shined the light over into the corn line where we heard the howl coming from, and right over there is where we saw the eye shine of this thing stalking us, and you could see it going like this back and forth, and it was in the corn. And I circled it in the video to where you could see this thing. So it was one of the most chilling nights we've ever had. And it was just, at that point, we said, look, you know what? We got to get out of here. I said, the safety of the team is more important, because we kept hearing things around us and there was no wind. We kept hearing things coming around us and whatnot. To me, it was saying, this is my territory, get out of here. You know, and so people were saying, well, why didn't you stay out there longer? I was like, well, I wasn't gonna stay out there just in case, you know, this thing was gonna turn on us. You know, I didn't know.
Is that one of the most frightening bits of investigation that you've done then, Eric?
I think it was not so much frightening. I don't want to say frightening. It was startling. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Well, let me say this. When I was a kid, I had gotten attacked by 2 Dobermans, and the dogs. I mean, that was for me, that was scary, because they you know, having that experience. And when I heard that, it kind of put me back in that PTSD kind of mindset, you know.
Yeah.
And it was more like startling, but I was like, but we still wanted to kind of get that evidence. Since we were there, we might as well have just tried to get some evidence, try to get something on video, which we did. And then we got this mist, we got this other stuff, and the eye shine. So it was startling, to say the least.
Do you know, because we're going to get loads of people skeptically minded, but challenging things that you're saying, I say, other researchers, people in chat who've had their experiences. But for me, that mist kind of clinches it. It takes it somewhere else. Was the mist localized to that area with nothing else in the immediate?
Right there. It was right there. And then we come to find out later that this mist has also been associated with Bigfoot sightings and Dogman sightings.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing, guys. This is one thing that I didn't mention to you too. I think maybe I did mention, but that night, the whole town of Elkhorn lost its power that night. Yeah. And I brought that in my hotel room the next day. I looked, and I must have brought a stick back from Lee's field. It must have been on my boot. And I showed Dominic, and he goes, "You brought it back with you, didn't you?"
Well, you know,
but it was wild.
The power loss, the power outage. I know I've wrote about these power outages in 2 of the books, Truth Proof 2 and 3, in the area of Bempton and Speeton, when I've noted that people have seen things of an unusual nature. Local paper will report that there's been a power outage. I wouldn't say on that night and at exact time that it's been seen, but usually within hours of it. Or do you know what I mean? It's been in close.
Absolutely.
It's been close time-wise and proximity, and that's happened. And I have written that, and I've put the little newspaper clipping in, you know, where appropriate as well. So I don't know what the connection is with these things potentially being able to knock out power lines. One more thing, you know, we're still on Beast of Bray Road. The farm that you visited, how long have they owned the farm?
He started, I think, in 2007. He bought the farm, and he didn't start farming there until 2013. Okay. Now, Lee was a high school math teacher, and he taught for 35 years in the school system, and he had no interest in the paranormal whatsoever.
That's where I'm going. Yeah.
Until it presented itself to him one night in May of 2014 or 2013, and absolutely was just mind-blowing to him. So he's been having activity on there. The other thing is, that night after the investigation, the next morning, Lee goes down and the stake bones are gone. And the trail cams that he had on us that night, they stopped working at 5 o'clock that night that we were out there. They didn't turn on again until 7:30 the next morning. Those things aren't able to shut off and on. Something was there that did not want to be seen.
But that kind of, yeah, I'm not discounting what you're saying, but it shows an higher intelligence than anything we're capable of doing. Yet this thing's an animal that's eating roadkill and taking steak bones. So what's at play? You know, it is fascinating. And how close a relationship, if any, do you think there is to these creatures? Call it the Bigfoot, the Dogman, the werewolf, with the UFO phenomena?
I think there's a real. I am a huge believer in the Bigfoot UFO phenomena. I think there is a connection there. One of our researchers actually had a brilliant thought. You know, where people are being abducted by extraterrestrials and doing tests and things like that, why couldn't Bigfoot also be being abducted and being tested on to find out what this thing is? And then when people see the UFO Bigfoot, it's because the UFO's been dropping off Bigfoot in that particular area or whatever. I know that's very out there to say, but it's not beyond the realm of possibility, you know, because these are creatures. Could Bigfoot be extraterrestrial? That's the other thing. You know, could it be coming from somewhere else? But the Dogman is a lot different than Bigfoot in the fact that it's not as broad-shouldered, so to speak. It's the reports that we're getting, it's a very thin type creature, like a dog. You know, it's very thin, very spindly, but very strong too. And so those are different types of reports. But I mean, I thought when I saw those, when Lee showed us those orbs, the daylight orbs that were in the sky, and right after we saw that UFO that night, I'm thinking, could this have just deposited these creatures here?
Or do you think, Eric, that it could be the location itself that's just allowing lots of different types of unexplained phenomena to manifest?
Absolutely. I totally believe that too.
I know we're throwing lots of things out there because none of us have really got a full grip on this, unless I don't know, unless we end up having some kind of conversation with one of these things or getting taken aboard a UFO and told, and then nobody's going to believe you, and you will be the person that says, I know, and everybody will just shake their head, myself included, probably. Do you think Dogman and Werewolf are the same? Is it just a name?
I think, you know, werewolf, well, we all know werewolves as shapeshifters and you know, the classic, you know, tale of a man can, you know, shapeshift into a werewolf. I think there's the Dogman, I think is could be closely connected to that. And is it a werewolf? Is it a wolf-like creature? Yes, I believe there is wolf qualities to this, because what we heard was definitely not a coyote. It wasn't a wolf. It wasn't a fox. It wasn't a screech owl. It wasn't anything like that. So there's elements of that, of a werewolf qualities that could be part of that. But one and the same, I don't know. You know, that's.
So before we move on from cryptids, then, have you any more Bigfoot related stories that you want to share with us?
Just a real quick one. We were in the New Jersey Pine Barrens, and we were investigating Bigfoot in the New Jersey Pine Barrens, and a Bigfoot researcher friend of ours, Eric Spinner, was getting a lot of reports of these juvenile Bigfoot in the area. Now, this was when we got home from Elkhorn. This was a week after we got home from Elkhorn. So that happened on October 3rd. This was on October 11th that we did the investigation.
All good. We've just Houston. We've got a problem. Hey, we're clear. No sound. No sound.
Yeah, no sound, no pictures, no
There we go.
Paul, unfortunately.
And we've got a clear picture.
And apologise for that, viewers. We'll just give Eric a little bit of time, see if he can reconnect.
I can see you. If we've connected, Les. Is all good. If we can just turn camera from.
No, his picture's frozen. The picture's frozen, Paul, and obviously, yeah,
no, it's not.
You're right.
Okay, mate, yeah.
Yeah, there's no sound either. Okay, Paul. I'll probably. Somebody was asking earlier in the chat, and I'll have to scroll right up in the chat to find out who it was.
Yeah.
But they was asking about the progress of
Once
Wolf.
I've got two voices firing at me, so once.
Can anybody hear me? Okay. Can anybody let me know if they're still watching the stream, because I seem to have two frozen guests on my screen at the moment. The call might have to come in again. See if I can get them to call in again. So maybe the three-letter agencies are at play here. Who knows? But thanks for all the questions. Yeah, we lost connections, so I don't know what's happening. If you can just hang on, we'll probably try another call. Let's have a look. Yes, let's have a look. Anyway, I'll just update you on the Wolflands film. We're just crossing the T's and dotting the R's, really, and then it'll go to the music editor to put all the good music together. So that's kind of where we're at there, and yeah, hopefully from our end it will be finished this year. So we've only got a few weeks left, so hopefully beginning of the new year we'll be seeing the final version, which is pretty exciting for me and Paul. We have worked quite a long time on this film. It's been 2.5 years or so, and in the meantime I've still got to do the washing up. So 2.5 years of washing up to do, because we've been that busy on it. Yes, the gremlins have crept in. Give NASA a nudge, Les, said Lee Roscoe. A nice one, Lee. Probably we'll have to, yeah. Yes. Paul won't be back on now. He's gone. Well, we'll see what's happening with the call. Let's see if I can... all sorts of gremlins I'm seeing on the screen. So I'll just see if I can go through some questions from you guys, or see what I can bring up until something happens at this end. Blue Shift YouTube watchers been messing with the feed burgers, or feed buggers, or whatever you want to call it. Okay then. Yeah, so I did still have some outstanding questions that some of you have already put on the chat. And so hopefully we can get back. I'll just give them another call and see where we're going.
Recordings out. We've got several recordings on iTunes that people could check out and purchase. Okay. So yeah, Les is back.
Can I just come in there, guys?
Yes.
We have lost the last 5 minutes. You completely went at this end.
Yeah, well, not Les. We were just about to close down, but we'll roll for another 5 if you're good to do.
You're back on there, and I'm not kidding you, Eric. But your picture now at the end of the stream is crystal clear.
Yeah.
Oh, it's yeah. There you go. Now it's clear.
Now it's clear. So.
Right. Well, we don't know where we finished and where we started on that one, people. So apologies for losing contact with you.
I'll just wrap it up. I'll wrap it up with the Pine Barrens Bigfoot story that I was telling you. We were doing some research. A friend of mine who's a Bigfoot researcher, Eric Spinner, they had a lot of activity in an area in the Pine Barrens called the Bowl. And what it is, it's a bowl. It's just like it sounds. It's like higher on the sides, it's slower in the middle, lower in the middle. And so this was a week after we got back from Elkhorn. So this was just a week afterward. We're down there and we're in the Pine Barrens. Now, if anybody knows about the New Jersey Pine Barrens, it is desolate down there as far as it. We were 5 miles on by truck, and then we set up base camp, which was about 600 yards in the woods. And it was completely just not one soul was around. It was nobody there. So we set up base camp and talked to these guys about their protocol, how they go about their research and things like that, which is really fascinating because a lot of things I learned that a lot of people don't know how Bigfoot researchers go about this. So with that, Dominic, it was me and Dominic. He was the only one with me on this case. Now, Dominic, again, spirit medium, this is completely out of his wheelhouse. So he's talking to Art, the other researcher, and all of a sudden we hear in the background a big whoop, like that. And we looked, and did you hear that? And everybody heard it. And I always have to chuckle because a lot of times I see those shows, and you've seen them too, I know, where they're whooping and hollering for these things. And I'm saying to myself, is that really what they sound like? But then that night, I'm like, I'll be damned if that's not what I heard. And so with that, Eric's wife, who the researcher's wife, starts answering it back, and they had a conversation back and forth, which was really, really cool. And we captured it all on video. It's called Pine Barrens Bigfoot. It's on my Eric Mintel Investigates YouTube channel and on our Facebook page as well. But it was an unbelievable night, man. I mean, we were getting like not only those whoops, what we were seeing red eye shine that was also in the tree line as well.
Interesting. Is this self-illuminating, or are you putting a light on it?
It was self-illuminating because we made sure that people knew that we just had a night vision camera. So we took the night vision off to show everybody how we look, and it was total pitch black. And we didn't really have any flashlights per se. So it was self-illuminating, which was really, really weird. And then again, we kept hearing this rustling sound going behind us. And this, what we thought was one of the juveniles. That's what we thought it was this juvenile. It sounded like it was going away from us. And again, we didn't see it with the physical part of it. We heard it, but this big rustling going on was the big mama coming over to go get it again, to find it.
Have you got plans to go back there?
Yeah, we're going to go follow up pretty soon with that as well. We've got some other videos coming up for ghosts. We've got another one coming up in November where a gentleman has over 250 vampire killing kits. And these kits that were made back in the 1700s, 1800s, that they would make because of these vampires. So now the next one's going to be vampires, and what the reality is of that in the world, and how that's relating to the paranormal. So that's one. And the place where we're going is a beautiful museum, and it's haunted. So we're going to look at that. We're also doing a follow-up on the Paranormal Beast, because there's been a lot more information that has now come to light since we did this investigation, which I can't wait to share with viewers too.
That aside, you've just touched on the subject of vampires. It's something I've never looked into. And how much reality do you think there is to that compared to the dogman, the werewolf, the Bigfoot?
Again, I'm not going to discount anything. I always say there is a truth. There's a little bit of truth to the folklore somewhere along the line. And these stories came from somewhere. Mm-hmm. So if you just go back far enough, you'll find out where this all started. And
you spot on, Eric. And I think there's more than a little bit of truth to the folklore. I think there's a lot of truth to it. And we know that things grow and get embellished over time. But what myself and Les have found during the process of making our documentary Wolflands is a lot of the things that people are reporting and are seen, and a lot of the experiences are experienced in the places that have got a rich history of folklore, of the big phantom hounds, the glowing red eyes. It's all there. The ingredients are all there, and it's just repeating itself. And I think there's a lot of truth in the folklore.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the red glowing eyes is something that you'll notice in a lot of Bigfoot stories and a lot of Dogman sightings as well. These red luminous eyes, and that's what happened with Lee in the Beast of Bray Road. When this thing presented itself, these red glowing eyes did not diminish. They stayed constant. So that's what kind of energy is this thing putting off to have that kind of look. Here's the other thing, Paul, I didn't mention this too. We went back to Elkhorn and did a follow-up investigation in April of this year. We didn't see it. We didn't encounter it this time. And I'm kind of glad we didn't, because you know what, not only safety-wise, but if we would have encountered it again, people might have thought, well, these guys are faking it, you know?
Yeah.
But we did not encounter it. But what we did walk away with was we did a town hall meeting the night of April 28th. Over 140 people showed up to tell their story of seeing this thing. And that's what I walked away with this time, was how it walks and how it glides. Because everyone had the same description of this.
This is the Beast of Bray Road.
The Beast of Bray Road, yeah.
So with the Beast of Bray Road, after speaking to so many people, we've got a similar phenomena to the Bigfoot phenomena, as in the movement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same thing. Which was just, and then the same situation with the Brinath and Beast, the same movement.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Another gentleman contacted me who had he had an encounter in April of this year in an area out here in Pennsylvania called Berks County. And he was at Hay Creek State Park with his daughter. They were fishing. And for an hour and a half, he heard all of what sounded like trees falling down. Like loggers could have been downing trees. But the only thing is, he never heard any chainsaws or anything like that. So he's hearing this and hearing this and hearing this. And then they're done fishing. They go to walk out of the park. And as he's looking across this it's a field, and then he saw a stone wall, and then above the stone wall were pine trees, where the trees themselves were going nuts. All the tops of the trees were going like this. Something was in the tree, and all of a sudden he said he saw a huge hand, like an arm, come out, and it was grabbing like a vulture, like a bird, out of the tree. Then it jumps to the next tree and is on the canopy of the tree like a spider, like walking on the canopy. Then the thing falls like 60 feet. He said it fell, and it would kill a normal human being. But this thing got up, straightened up, and he said it was on two legs, and from the heel to the hip was 6 feet alone. And the torso was even bigger. He said this thing was at least 9-10 feet tall.
Yeah.
And this description was another one too, because it looked like he said it looked like a hyena. Like it looked like a hyena head, but it was really, he said it was very thin, but almost hairless, and had some weird markings on it. And it was trying to get this bird, and it never saw him, but he was looking at this maybe from 400 yards away. And then it really scared him, because it darted into the area where his truck was, where they had to go back to get the truck. So he was really scared. But there were people all around that nobody saw this thing, but he saw it,
So did the phenomena single him out then? I'm not saying the Bigfoot.
It could have. That's a really great question. It could have, because he was asking people, did you see anything, as they were coming into the park. The other thing that I thought was, maybe this thing is in the trees. Maybe it went back up in the trees again.
Do you know, this is a few years old now, probably 4 years old, and I've still got it. The guy sent me via email some images of paintings he did of what he claimed was a Bigfoot walking through the tops of the trees. And I never wrote about it, not because I didn't believe him, but it just sent two off the wall. And I've still got these pictures and his detailed accounts, and he claims this thing, as it's an impossibility, Eric, isn't it, what we're discussing? But nevertheless, he claims it was walking through the tops of the trees. So does that tie in with that's not right? He said it were walking, but we've got something that it couldn't possibly do what it's saying. And you're saying something similar.
Is it defying gravity? Who knows?
It
I'll
really is.
I'll have to send you the picture, and
Yeah,
you can.
please do.
This was amazing. And then I saw another picture recently because I was also of the thinking of like, you know, could I believe this guy? Was I believe, you know, with what happened? But when I first heard it, but then as he's talking to me and as he's telling me this account, as he's getting more detailed, as I'm hearing more of the anxiety in his voice, I'm saying to myself, this guy absolutely saw something he can't explain.
Yeah, but what, and also, I'm hearing off the wall stories that I've not dismissed, but I've not tackled. And you're telling me something similar. We're almost out of time now, Eric. But just briefly, tell us about 2 minutes about your work that you did with Bill Burns.
Bill Burns is my next door neighbor, practically. And
right, brief explanation.
Okay,
Who is Bill
so
Burns?
we did a video called the Monmouth UFO sightings in New Jersey. We worked together and looked into some New Jersey UFO sightings, and had some great footage there. And then we did an investigation of a ghost at an opera house in Pennsylvania as well.
Okay, that's brilliant. And you've got more TV work planned?
We do, and we're going to be doing a show called Eric Mintel Investigates, and we're shopping that around now.
Excellent. Well, Eric, on that note, I'm going to say thank you very much. Sorry about the technical issues, but really enjoyed speaking to you, and I hope we can talk again.
Absolutely, man. I would love to do this again. This is a lot of fun, and thank you again for your research, and Les and all your viewers. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show, and you know, keep checking us out. You know, we've always got stuff that we've got going on, so we all have to help each other out, right, Paul?
We certainly do. Eric, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. A great show, and I've got to reiterate what Paul has said. The invitation goes out to you, Eric, to come on this show again.
Thank you.
If you would like to, and if not for the amount of questions that I've got on my iPad here, which I didn't get the chance to ask, and we will keep those questions, folks. So don't worry. If Eric comes back on, and he said he would, then we can ask those questions.
I'll see you tomorrow night.
This show, yeah, yeah. We'll make it a daily show. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, and okay, thanks, guys. I will just end the show myself. Yeah, sorry for the technical issues, and as Paul said. Probably you could see those two or hear those two, and I couldn't see or hear any of those two. So the Gremlins definitely kicked in tonight. I've got to thank Sky for doing the moderating tonight. I've got to thank Paul and, of course, our guest, Eric, for being our guest tonight. And everybody who's been onto the chats and sent the questions through, the fantastic questions. And as I said earlier, if and when Eric comes on again, we will keep these questions and they will get asked. So don't worry about that. So it's a good night from me, I guess, and see you all next time. Bye.
You got it, guys. Have a great night. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Be safe.